and welcome to another edition of the Throwing Bagels Podcast. Let the March Madness begin. Kevin Mooney here with you alongside Chris Douglas. Hey, Chris.
What's going on, Kevin?
And Jason Hamo here as well. Hey, Jason.
Hello there. How are you?
Hello there. I am great. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well.
Doing all right. Just waiting for spring. March Madness equals spring in my book.
It does. And it is madness indeed. So first off, we have to say congratulations to the men's and women's basketball teams at Oswego. Their seasons unfortunately came to an end, but both successful seasons ending in losses in the SUNY semifinals. The men lost to Cortland, finishing with a record of 17-9. The Oswego women losing to New Paltz, finishing at 17-10 on the season. So good, solid campaigns, by both teams. And then there's hockey. And this is the men. This is the first time this ever happened in Oswego college hockey history. The men and the women are both hosting SUNY championship games this coming weekend against, you guessed it, the Plattsburgh State Cardinals.
Those people up there.
So, the men defeated Buffalo State in the semis. The the women defeated Canton. So they're both now one win away from SUNY championships and advancing on to the NCAA tournament. So
isn't that something? And they're both hosting. Like, that's the thing.
Both hosting against Plattsburgh.
Well, I mean, the women are what, number 5 in the country, right?
Yeah, so 4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, they've had an excellent season. Wow, what a season.
And the men are in the teens, I think. The men are ranked like in the teens.
Yep.
The women's team has 22 wins and counting. That's the all-time record for most wins in a season by them. So congratulations. So again, like we mentioned, the madness is just beginning.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'd say so. And joining us now, let's get to our guest, shall we?
Yes, let's get to him.
Very patiently waiting.
He has
greatly
been.
Appreciate that. He's an actor based in Los Angeles, California, a journalist. He's been an author of a series of real talk comments on X, and also, for interesting tidbit, former personal assistant to Marc Anthony and Jennifer Lopez. And of course, SUNY Oswego grad. It's our pleasure to welcome in Damon Gonzalez. Damon, thank you so much for being with us.
Hello, everyone. Speaking of March Madness,
we need some dirt.
What's that?
We need some dirt.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll give you a little bit. But speaking of March Madness, I'm an Aries, so I'm particularly mad right now. I'm like, my energy is just like full throttle. I'm definitely manicking on the upside.
All right. There you go. A lot of Aries here. A lot of Aries.
I'm an Aries as well. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, best sign.
First off, Damon, you're an actor, of course, and I guess the Oscars is kind of like the Super Bowl of the profession. And it just took place as we speak. It's Monday evening, so it took place last night. Your thoughts watching the Oscars, or what were some of your big takeaways?
Well, I was very bored. It was one of those Oscars for me where you're just like wanting to go to sleep after a certain while. You're like, okay, and then I thought it was really random. The James Bond thing was like, I was out of nowhere. And then this girl pops out of the stage, Lisa. And I'm like, who is Lisa? But I was told from a much younger friend of mine that she's a K-pop star. So I guess people do know who she is. And I thought that was really odd. I love the opening. I felt like the opening number with Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande was the highlight of the award show for me. They were fantastic. I mean, their voices were incredible. In terms of like the categories and the winners and stuff, I'm glad Anora won because I feel like personally that I enjoyed that film the most this year. I thought it was really funny and just like outrageous and crazy and just, it was a good time. And I'm also from Brooklyn and a lot of it takes place in Brooklyn. So there was that like familiarity there and got to see Coney Island and Brighton Beach. And with Mikey Madison winning. I'm glad she won too, because I felt like if Demi Moore would have won the Oscar, it would have just sort of been like, okay, we're giving you this award because you've never won before. She was good in The Substance. I liked the movie, but those are the vibes I was getting, that like it was just kind of like a career type of like award. So I'm glad that that didn't happen.
So did you, with Honora winning for Best Picture, were you was there any surprise at all that Wicked didn't win?
No, I don't think, not for me personally. I mean, I don't think it like in the other awards that were prior to this. I don't think it was like it has been like a huge winner either. So I wasn't really expecting it. And I liked the movie, but I didn't think it was, I didn't like, it didn't blow me away.
Right.
Did you like any of the bits what Conan did with? I mean, especially with Adam Sandler. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. I thought Conan did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the humor I didn't get, but for the most part, I thought he did a really good job. Yeah, Adam Sandler, he's the best.
He's so awesome. I mean, he's in a hoodie and shorts at the awards ceremony. It's
He
hilarious.
came to Oswego when I was there and performed at like I was like at the hockey stadium and he performed there.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
We must have just missed that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Was he doing his songs like
Yes, he performed.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I would have loved that.
And I actually was in a Adam Sandler movie.
Oh yeah, which one?
I don't know. No, honestly, I don't know, because I work on so many different projects that I lose track. And it was around 2016. It was a Netflix movie. Honestly, the name of the movie escapes me. But I mean, I didn't have a speaking role. I was like a newspaper. I like ran a newsstand. He came and he bought a magazine for me, and then like I think Arsenio Hall was in it, and Arsenio Hall came into the scene and was like said something. They had some banter, but he came over to me and he gave me money and I had to give him change, and I was like, I had just moved to LA and like my hands were shaking. And he's like, "How much?" And I wasn't supposed to talk, but I did, because I'm like, well, it seems unnatural if I don't say anything. And then they were going to come back and refilm me like speaking, but then they ran out of time, so they didn't do it.
Was it
But-
Uncut Gems?
No, it was a comedy.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, I could have got if I had that. I was non-union at the time, and if I would have gotten a line, that would have got me into SAG. But that didn't happen until about 2 years ago. So it's a process. It's a lot of work, and I worked for about over 6 years as a non-union background actor. That's how I started.
How does that
A lot of hours.
How does that work? How does that like how does it work to get into the union? Like, what do you have to do? Do you have to? You mentioned hours. Do you have to be basically act a certain amount of hours in certain movies, or?
Well, there's certain different ways that you can get into the union. It's not easy. Actually, for some people, it can be. You hear these stories where people get to LA and they get all their union vouchers the first week, and you can join. So basically, you have to get paid as a union actor, and it could happen like if you're working on union, you get upgraded because there's a certain allotment of how many union actors need to be on set. So if one person doesn't show up, they'll pull a non-union person up, and then you'll get paid as a union actor. And something like that has to happen 3 times. You need 3 vouchers, and then once you get your 3 vouchers, you can join the union. That's one way. Another way is if you just get a speaking part, you say a line, automatic, you're in the union. And once you are eligible, it costs like $3,500 as like initially to get in.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's worth it. You work a little bit less because there's a smaller amount of union actors, like especially in the background, working. So there's less work, but you get paid more. So it is worth it, and also you get to do more things. Like the non-union people, actors, a lot of times they'll have to do, like, you're walking across a window 100 times and then the scene is happening and you're outside the window, and like that's it. But if you're in the union, maybe you'll get to be a police officer, or I was on Matlock, the new Matlock on CBS a couple of weeks ago, and I was like the bailiff in the courtroom, and I got to take the defendant out in handcuffs and stuff. So you get to do more action. You could just know somebody and they can help get you into the union.
What was your experience like on the set of Matlock?
It was cool. I met Kathy Bates. I was standing in the fake courtroom, the set, and she walks in and she turns around, she looks at me and she goes, "Hi, what's your name?" So I'm like, "Hi, I'm Damon." She's like, "I'm Kathy," and she like, I know.
Yes, I know who you are.
I've seen a lot of your movies.
Yeah, so that was a big moment. It just blows your mind away, and like moments like that, like I loved her, and just, I mean, Misery, and then for this woman to be years later asking me who I am, like it's mind blowing.
You think she would have laughed if she said, "I'm Kathy"? You'd been like, "Who?"
Right? I should have, right?
I can only imagine. I can imagine some actors like laughing and shrugging it off, but some actors being like freaking out and being like, "How dare you not know who I am?" type thing.
Right.
So you recently appeared in commercials for Nissan and Bud Light, and both of those ran during the Super Bowl. How did you wind up in those commercials?
So I work with a commercial agency, and I get, they submit me for it, and then you get cast. And the Nissan one was really wild. We were running in downtown LA for 4 days and just running through the streets like crazy people for 12 hours a day. So like I was in agony. And at one point the assistant director was like, "Oh, see that escalator up there?" Because at that point they were shooting with the drone, so they were able to see like everything. And he wanted me to run up an escalator. I was like, "That's not I mean, I walked up the escalator, but I was like, my legs just were not working." And the Bud Light one was pretty cool because Post Malone was in it, so he was there on the set, and that was just like a fun shoot outdoors. It was like a barbecue set up, and you get to know the people that you work with, and it's like you're seeing your friends, like coworkers, and just having a good time, and you get to pretend you're at a barbecue. So when you're dancing, and it's like it's a dream job.
How closely is like commercial casting tied to casting for TV and movies? Like, does an appearance in one lead to another at some point?
It's really completely separate. It's like almost like two different industries in a lot of ways. You have commercial directors that only do commercials, but there are film directors that do commercials, but it's kind of rare, and I feel like it is kind of like church and state, like two different things. So even when you have an agent, like right now I was talking to one agent, and they only wanted to represent me for commercial and print and not theatrical. And then I have another agent. I actually just got an agent, and they're submitting me for everything. So it just depends.
What's a typical day like on a set for you? You know, whether it's a movie, whether it's a commercial.
So it's really early. Usually you have early call times, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., it's usually 6, 7, sometimes even earlier. I've had earlier call times. So, and then here I'm in LA, so you have to drive there, make sure that you have plenty of time to drive. So when I have a 6 a.m. call time, I'm up at 3:30. And it's funny because when I worked in corporate, I had to be at work at 8:30, and I was late every day. because I just didn't care. Like, and now it's like, because I like what I do, the alarm goes off and I jump out of bed. I'm like, all right, let's go, put the coffee on, and I'm ready. And a lot of time there's a lot of waiting around because you're waiting for your scene to be filmed, but they need you there because you might have to go through wardrobe, hair and makeup. So sometimes they ask you to bring pieces of your own wardrobe to set, and then they'll build upon that. Or sometimes you'll go to a fitting prior if you're in a costume or you're going to play I don't know, a cop or something, or a doctor or something like that, and they need to get your measurements right because they have a costume waiting for you on set. And you're just like a lot of waiting around. But it's also really a physical job that I don't think a lot of people realize, because when I left New York in 2015, I quit my job at Condé Nast. I was business manager at Bon Appetit magazine, and I just wanted to change, and I wanted to pursue my own creative, life. And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you don't work." And I got so offended by that because I'm like, you know what? I haven't worked harder in my whole life, because there are days where it's 98 degrees in downtown LA. And you know what? I have to pretend like it's winter, and I'm in a wool hat, wool coat,
Oh
gloves,
man.
and you're dying,
Oh.
dying of insane. There's being rained on, like that, the water just coming down on you. And the things that also, when you're struggling, you kind of just do anything for money, And one time someone asked me to be a stand-in for a commercial, and like they shot a hose of water in my face.
Oh
Like,
my God.
yeah. And I'm like, all right, $250, I'll do it. Okay. But it can be crazy, carrying things. Like I was working on another commercial, and there was like these solar panels on a hill. It was a car commercial, and me and the other actor had to carry these like steel beams up the hill. And then every time you have to do another take, you have to reset. So you have to go back to where you started, carrying this heavy metal pole.
Oh my God.
And it could take its toll on your body. So like after a shoot, like I'm in bed the next day, like I'm just I'm done.
So what do you do when there's downtime on the set? Do you bring a book with you or
I listen to music. I go online. If you know someone, have a set buddy or someone you've worked with for a lot and see them, which is cool, then I like just hang out with them and we catch up and stuff.
Do you ever get to ever keep any of that clothing that they fit you with or anything like that?
No, because what they do is that they'll take a copy of your contract when it's like, and you can't get paid unless you return the wardrobe. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you have to go retrieve it, or you have to give it back. And then they sign you out on your contract or whatever.
Gotcha.
Damon, what would be your favorite role to play? Like if you had a choice of roles to play.
For some reason, I always resonated with the villain. I
Okay.
like darker characters. I feel like you can do more with that. I am yeah. I've always liked the villain of a TV show, or the person that's always plotting and doing things and backstabbing, all that stuff. That's all that fun stuff. I love horror. I'm a huge horror fan,
Okay.
so I wouldn't mind playing a mass murderer or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I've been in like worked on a couple of horror movies, but they were like kind of low budget, and I don't remember the names. That's how low budget they were.
What is life like in LA now with, in the wake of the wildfires? Has it changed a lot? I mean, obviously certain aspects, but overall.
It was pretty rough. I was in Florida visiting my mom the day that the fires broke out,
Hmm.
and that was, I don't think, on a Tuesday, or maybe I think a Tuesday. And then I had since my cat was here by himself and my neighbor was checking in on him, I still just didn't was worried about him. So I came back on that Friday, and I couldn't even believe I couldn't believe it because the air was like you could see the smoke. And I live in North Hollywood, so I'm kind of close, but not like super close to the where the fires were, and it smelled so bad, and it looked like a bomb went off in my backyard. There are branches down and dust and dirt. My apartment's filthy. Like I touched the table and my hand was black
Wow.
because someone like my neighbor left the window open. I couldn't stay here. I ended up going up north to a friend's house for a week because I couldn't breathe. It was so bad. And then when I came back, we had to kind of stay in the house. You couldn't really be out. Even with the mask on, you couldn't go outside. It was that bad.
Did they shut down sets?
Yeah, nothing was happening. And it was the beginning of the year, so things tend to be slow then anyway. But yeah, all productions pause. But LA it's been really slow here for a while. We had the strike 2 year. Well, there was COVID,
Mhm.
and then there was the strike that we had for a year. And then we were supposed to get like last year, things were going to bounce back and they didn't. And a lot of productions left Los Angeles because it's just too expensive to film here. So they went to Atlanta, New Mexico, New York, or out of the country. So it's not what it used to be. And since the fires, now there's a huge effort to try and bring back production back to LA because it affects everyone from like the crew members and caterers and florists and prop houses. It's an industry town. And I don't understand how it even got to this point that our current governor, who I'm not a fan of, didn't take action sooner and often put together like larger tax breaks that were competitive with other states a lot sooner. Now there's a huge push for it. So I'm hoping that things do come back this year and soon and quick because a lot of people are suffering, and then people lost their homes on top of it with fire.
Yeah,
So
geez, yeah.
it's not pretty. It's like
Crazy.
a lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are out of work.
You mentioned LA in the back in the days of the pandemic. You were part of a startup team, One Health Labs, which helped bring in COVID testing labs throughout the entertainment industry. It really helped a lot in terms of helping Hollywood get back on its feet in the wake of the pandemic. What was that experience like for you? And do you think there's some things in that playbook that could be applied this time around in the wake of the fires?
I'm not sure about now how I feel like they don't really relate that well.
Okay.
But the COVID was interesting 'cause everything got shut down. Like one day you're working and then I'm there and they're telling everyone to go home. And you didn't know what was going to happen with many people, all in different every industry. And once we started to come back, no one knew what they were doing. And then they were coming up with these rules, and you're like, does this even some of this doesn't even make sense because you have a mask on, mask off, mask on. When you're rolling, the mask is off. It was just like didn't make any sense. So, but in terms of like working with the COVID lab and setting that up, I feel like that was one of the most like proudest things I've ever done because we helped so many people, and my company was one of the only there was like maybe two labs in LA that were doing testing for production. So we did major movies, we did TV shows. I ran the commercial division. I handled all the commercials. And at first we didn't know what we were doing, and we had to hire medical professionals who gave us feedback, follow the CDC guidelines, what have you. About 1 minute you have to wear PPE, then the next minute you don't. Everything kept changing so rapidly, and then also with the testing, sometimes you would save a production. Like if a director would come in and they would fly in and land at 11 o'clock at night, I would go meet them at their hotel because they needed to be cleared for work by 6 a.m. So I'd go there, handle it all, drop the sample off at the lab, wait for it to be processed, and then deliver the results. And it was a lot. And especially in the beginning, when people were still dying from before the vaccine, a lot of people, we had to call people and tell them they were positive. And there are people crying on the phone, and you don't know what to say. And we're not really trained to do that. You're supposed to just tell them the results. And that was hard and draining. And we worked all hours of the day and night, but we took care of people. And I feel like people would say, oh, my friend's staying with me and they're coming in town. Can you test them? I'm like, yeah, of course, send them over. Or my mom's sick or whatever. Yeah, sure, send them through. Like, I was trying to help people. For me, it wasn't about like making money. I really just wanted to help people.
It's hard to believe that we're basically a couple of weeks away from the 5-year anniversary of really when things started to shut down. Like, I'll always think of St. Patrick's Day 2020. That was the day when my employer said, everyone go home. And that was it. Like, I've been home. I've been working remotely ever since. And it's been just a day that has changed everyone's life. Like, really, all of our lives have been different from that day on. And it's just crazy how they think it's been 5 years, since it all took place.
Yeah, and even with the with relating to acting, with that, all the auditions turned to self tapes, which in a way it's good because you can do it yourself and you don't have to travel somewhere. But on the flip side of that is that you don't have that in-person contact anymore. So before that, you'd be able to see the casting director or director, and they can give you real-time feedback and say, make an adjustment. Now you don't get that. You're talking to yourself and you upload it and you don't even know if anybody sees it. So that creativity that's gone from the process, which I think is unfortunate, but it's a science, the way things are now.
So you mentioned earlier, Damon, you moved from New York to LA in about 10 years ago. So what are the contrasts? Like, to give us the lowdown. What's the difference between New York and LA in your mind?
Okay, so LA is like a day on the beach, stoned, or maybe going for a hike and enjoying the sunshine. Very chill, laid back. People can drive. That's one thing. They don't know how to drive here. Slow. People are a lot slower. And people are like really flaky, and they live up to that stereotype where they'll say, oh yeah, I'll call you and we'll do this and we'll do that. And then they just disappear and ghost you, or they're selling you a bill of goods and you never hear from them again. And in New York is like, someone will tell you immediately, no, you don't have the job, or we're moving on. More direct, fast paced. No, there's no time. You're always trying to catch up on time. Even with the seasons, it's like you squeeze everything into the summer because that's when you get to come out of your house. You guys live in the north, you know what it's like. So and then when summer breaks, it's just the city comes alive. But as I've gotten older, I feel like that lifestyle, when I was younger in my 20s, going out and partying, and it was great. But now as I get older, it's like I want the convenience of being able to drive and put my groceries in the car instead of lugging them 5 blocks from down the street and up 3 flights of stairs. Like, who wants to do that? I don't. So, I miss New York. I do go back, and I like when I go back. It feels good. But I don't think I'd want to live there again full time. But I do enjoy visiting, and I would like go back if I got a job there or something, for a few months or whatever.
At one point in your career, Damon, you were personal assistant to Marc Anthony and Jennifer Lopez. What do you remember the most about that experience?
It feels like a dream in a lot of ways because the whole thing was very surreal. And I had been working in magazine publishing. I worked at Glamour magazine and I left. I went to another publishing company that did at the time was like tabloids, In Touch Weekly, and I would look at the photos of celebrities and be like, I don't want to work at a magazine that talks about this stuff. I want to know what it's like behind the scenes. Like I want to know what it's like in that world. And I had a friend, a childhood friend that had worked for Marc's business manager. And I knew someone from the team was leaving, but they were being very selective and wanted someone through a referral. And I was out of work and I just kept calling and calling and calling and calling. And I didn't give up. And I went for my interview and the next thing I'm in Jennifer's closet. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, is this real? I didn't understand what was happening. The woman was giving me a tour because it was in an apartment that was also an office. And I'm like, this is the weirdest interview I've had in my whole life. And it was a lot of fun. And for the first, I'd say 6 months, I didn't meet them. I just worked in the office. And then eventually I started seeing them when they came into town for events or what have you. And I would get that FaceTime and they felt that things ran more smoothly when I was around. So when they were in New York, they requested that I would be with them. So when you hear that, you're like, wait a minute, they want me? Like they want me to come to their house? And you're like, yeah, I want to go to their house. I want to see what it looks like. So it's very seductive, right? It's very seductive and you get pulled in. And the first time that I met Marc and Jennifer, I had gone to drop something off at a recording studio. Okay. He was in the recording booth and I walked in and he was like, who's that? Who's that? And his manager's like, oh, that's Damon, the new guy. And he's like, come in here, get in here, get in here. And I go into the booth and I sit down. He takes the earphones and puts them on my ears and he starts singing to me.
Wow.
And I was just like, what? And then a little while later, Jennifer had come in and she was a little like shy and, having a new person around. And then, but before you know it, she sat down on the couch next to me and we started talking. And at the end of the night, I walked them to their car. Listen to this. I walked them to their car. I said goodbye. It was a pleasure meeting you. I haul a cab and a Marc Anthony song was playing on the radio.
That's great.
So I knew that at that point I was where I was supposed to be. It was one of those moments where you're like, wow, this is magic right here. And the next day, the assistant that was with them said, oh, Damon, they talked about you the whole ride home and they loved you. And I was like, really? What did they say?
You're like, tell me more. Tell me more.
Right.
Yeah. So, but on the flip side of it is that you have to give up your whole life in a job like that. Your personal life, your life is their life. So you have to be there when they wake up, make sure that they're getting food, getting fed, make sure they show up to the meetings on time, make sure that contracts are signed, make sure that creative feedback is given back to managers and PR people. And sometimes you have to travel last minute and go to another country. I once flew to Portugal to drop off wardrobe because the wardrobe person forgot the dancers and Jennifer's wardrobe. I flew to Portugal and was back in my apartment the next day. I got to Portugal, dropped the stuff off, and went to the performance and came back. It was crazy. So, after about 2 years, I was like, okay, I want my life back. I want to see my friends. I want to see my cat, and my cat hates me. So I wanted to do something a little different and have a little bit more personal time. And I went to go work for this creative director who worked on Jennifer's fragrances. So she was our client. So we're still in the family. And I'm still close to her family members. And that's what it felt like. It was like a family. It felt like they treated like a family business in a way. Like you felt like cared for. It was a safe place for me. So it was cool.
So you kind of alluded to this, but it seems like their schedules were kind of just absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially you have two big stars, right? So they could be doing different things in different cities, different countries, and or if they're together, there's just so much to keep track of and manage, and it's a lot. I mean, I did everything from watch the kids to building a spa, getting a spa built in the house, or just like you just do whatever, you know. It's like you just get things done. Like as a personal assistant, your job is just to get things done and make their lives comfortable, whatever it takes. And there was maybe like at the time there was about 5 of us, and it still felt like there wasn't enough resources. um, it's a lot. You know, I was commissioning private, I mean, I learned a lot too, commissioning private jets and helicopters and setting up recording studio sessions. And I never did anything like that before, but that would be the assignment. Like the manager said, oh, book Marc and get him a studio and get the band members in. I'm like, what? I never did this before. But it was just like figuring it out.
So you kind of alluded to this a little earlier, but what exactly led to your decision to pursue an acting career? Like you had said that you kind of were tired of working the grind of a, 9 to 5, right? And you moved to LA. Like what made you decide to really decide to pursue that acting career?
Well, it was something that I always wanted to do, but I had a lot of fear. And I was always shy in school. Didn't have confidence. And I had to do some exercise at work because I worked in like the sales part of the magazine, and we had to do improv, and I was terrified. But I did it, and the PR person came over to me and said, "Oh, Damon, like you really did a good job. Like I think you found your calling." And that kind of resonated with me. And then from that point, I started taking acting classes in New York. And I just wanted to pursue my own goals, because I spent so many years working, helping other people or a company make money, and they're getting rich and you're just sitting there, you know, having to be there for every whim, and you can't leave your desk or what have you. And yeah, I wanted to pursue something more creative. And there was also other things that were going on in my life at the time. I had a friend that passed away tragically, and it was really hard for me to be in New York, because I would feel like everywhere I went, I kind of like, oh, that was the first place that we met. That's where I saw him last. Or so I just wanted to get out, and I just had no plan. I cleared out my 401k. I got an apartment online, and my credit was good at that point. I took my cat, and at the time I needed back surgery, so I was in a back brace. I was crazy. And everyone was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Like, I don't know. But the train has left the station. I quit my job. Like, this is happening. I can't turn back now. It's happening.
We're going. That's it.
Yeah, so I just took a huge leap of faith, and a friend of mine told me that his friend worked at Central Casting, and he said, "Oh, go see my friend Brandy at Central Casting, and she'll, let you know how to, sign up and everything." And I went, and that's how I started. My first like little gig was I got booked on like the Muppet reboot, and I was like, I'm working with Miss Piggy and Kermit the Frog. Like, this is awesome.
So are you still nervous? Do you still get nervous when you like you said you were like so nervous. Do you still get nervous when you have gigs?
I did what Matlock, because I didn't know what I was going to do prior. So I didn't know I was going to be featured. So that was like the extra pressure. And I had to put the handcuffs on the person, and without making too much noise too. So I was just like nervous that I was going to screw it up. Like, and I mean, I didn't. And even if you do, I mean, actually, I caught the handcuffs on the actress's skin. And she was very kind. But like things like that, or yeah, you can get a little nervous, but it's just more. I feel like it's more excitement. Like I'm excited, nervousness. Yeah. I've got to work with childhood idols, and it's like just random stuff. Like I was on this show, Murder in the First, and I'm like in the hallway and I hear a voice and I'm like, that sounds like Zach Morris. And then it was like Mark Paul Gosselaar
Oh man, that's
was the
awesome.
director.
That's cool.
You know, and Peter Weller from RoboCop was like one of my directors. Like just random things. And I've been on sets with Keanu Reeves and worked on Viola Davis. I was on How to Get Away with Murder, and I was in her AA group. So whenever she went to AA, I was there. And I had to turn around and we had to say, hi, Annalise, or whatever her name was. And she made eye contact with me. And like my core got shook because she was so in character and so good and in character that I was like, oh my God, like I was scared and nervous. And one of the first times, when I first started working, I was on a show with Billy Bob Thornton. And we're walking down the street, and supposedly this car comes around the corner and runs the woman that he's walking with over. And then I have to run over to the body and check her vitals or whatever. I'm just like a pedestrian. And I'm doing that. And then he comes and he's like improvising and he's like, get the F away from her. Like, and I like physically like jump back. Like, oh, okay. Like, but I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is acting. Like, this is not real.
So you always hear about central casting like as like one of those things, like central casting, like go to like it's a real thing, right? It's
Yes.
like it's a legit thing. Like people joke all the time, well, just go to central casting, right? But it's literally like your friend sent you to central casting to
I
meet
did.
somebody.
Yeah.
Like that's so weird. That's funny
There's
because
a
you always
building
hear
in,
that.
yeah, there's a building in Burbank and it says Central Casting on it. It's a real place.
That's funny.
Yeah, they take your photo, they take your measurements, and they'll submit you for whatever category that they're looking for. And now I want to try and take things to it, try to do more. I've done speaking things, but they were, for low budget or for friends projects, things like that. But I would like to be able to do more. It's very hard to get, it was hard to get into the union and then get an agent. And then once you get the agent, you have to get an audition. And then you have to be someone that they're looking for. And then you have to get the job. So there's a lot of things working against you. And there's a lot of nepotism in the industry. So I kind of like let go of expectations or hopes. And now I'm just feel like I'm just going to let things come to me instead of just chasing things. Like whatever comes to me, I'll say yes to.
Seems like you're pretty successful, so it seems like it's working out.
Yeah, I've been able to support myself. I haven't worked for like a corporate job, and the lab was during COVID, and that was like a steady paycheck, which was nice to have for once. But other than that, yeah, I'm just like been supporting myself and making it work. And oddly enough, I have more money now in my bank account than I did when I worked in corporate, and I work a lot less.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works, but it can get a little bit frustrating and scary because you don't know too when you're going to get that next gig or when that is going to happen. But then something will come your way and you'll work on a commercial, and then that day when you're on the set, they tell you, oh, we're filming 6 commercial spots. Well, that means they pay me 6 times. So you're like, okay, I just made money for the next 2 months and I'm good. So that happens, and it happens, and I'm grateful for when it does happen. But it's making I'm able to have a nice lifestyle.
Switching gears, like what led you to attend Oswego? And were you an act like what would you major in when you were there?
I was a comm major, communications, just general communications, and Oswego was one of the only schools I got into. I was a terrible high school student. Like I didn't care. I just got by. I went to New York City Public High School in Brooklyn, and there was like 4,000 kids in my school. It was crazy. And I worked in the mall. Like I wasn't really into school. I didn't care. I wanted to do other things. And I would cut school with my friends and we'd go to like talk show tapings and go into Manhattan and go to, Maury Povich and Joan Rivers show and and I wanted to just the opposite of what I was used to. So I wanted to be around trees and nature, and I love nature. And I had gone up to Oswego and fell in love with the lake. The moment I saw it, I was like, "This is an incredible place." And then, of course, on the brochure that they give you, they cut off the power plant, but we just kind of ignored that was there, right? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They didn't show that in the booklet. It just cuts off. But yeah, Oswego was a great school. I loved it. I made lifelong friends there. I had a blast. I think it was probably one of the most memorable times of my life. And I love that it feels like in a lot of ways it's stuck in time. And like I was there a couple of years ago and we went to Bev's by the ice cream place, and it's like this place is like it's been the same forever.
Yeah.
And but also, I mean, academically, I kind of wish I would have been a little bit more focused and maybe went into broadcasting or journalism, um, or even just learned a trade, because now as you get older, it's just harder to get work because people are like, oh, they don't want to hire you anymore. And so now my degree is worthless, like to me. It doesn't matter anymore. And I was still, before that we had loan forgiveness, I was still paying my student loan up to like 2 years ago. I was still paying it. Like, why am I still paying this loan? This is crazy. Um, but yeah, overall, just like I think it's a magical place, and I would like to go back. I would definitely like to go back in the summer, of course.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good time
call.
to go back.
The winters are crazy, but also beautiful. I mean, the lake effect snow is just like, and storms. We still go like watch the lightning storms over the lake, and just all the stars. It's a beautiful place.
So it sounds like you really kind of enjoyed your experience in Oswego. Did you have a favorite moment there at all, or something that really sticks out?
I don't know. I was very drunk and I was very high.
sounds par for the course.
That's about right.
But yeah, it was all good. Seriously, all of it. I liked living by myself more than having roommates. I thought having a roommate was difficult because it's like the rooms are so small.
Yeah.
And yeah, just being with a stranger in a small space, that was like a lot for me. But overall, I love the class. I took a lot of art classes and stuff, and got to tap to other things that I had real interest in, where I didn't have that opportunity in high school. And at that point, I would have been like too shy to like go into acting at all. Like I didn't even want to do the class presentation. That was like death to me. Like no, like my heart would just like beat a million miles a minute. And then eventually I just got over that, but it took me a long time. And now I don't care. Now it's like, even when I first started working in Hollywood, when I would see the camera, I would hide. I'd always go in the back. I didn't want anyone to see me. And now I'm like, I want to be seen. I'm like trying to, it doesn't scare me anymore.
All right, before we get you out of here, we have one final question for you. It involves food because we like to eat and that sort of stuff. So back in our day, and as we go, our favorite meals usually revolved around the chicken patty sandwich. So did you have a go-to food at the cafeteria that you enjoyed?
The chicken patty sandwich was really good. I would have it put mayo on it.
Oh yeah, that's the way to go.
And yeah. Remember timepieces?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So getting like the pizza and breadsticks from timepieces. After a while, I used to also like eating breakfast. for dinner and stuff when we would do that.
Yeah.
That.
Oh yeah.
But eventually, like, you just get sick of eating. It was like the same thing over and over again after a while, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go order a sub or just order something. But yeah, we spend hours and sometimes spend hours in the cafeteria just like talking and laughing and eating and people watching and stuff, and it was a good time.
The garlic breadsticks at timepieces.
Yes.
That was my go-to.
Yes. Yes.
And then you would get the order from the sub shop once in a while to break things up, or where would you order from outside campus?
We would definitely get subs. We'd get pizza. I forgot, what was that pizza place that was next to the coconuts?
Pavone's?
Probably. It was on the corner, and it had pretty good pizza. Oh, we'd go out to dinner. We'd go to that Italian restaurant that was
Canales.
Canales. Yeah, we go to Canales. Or sometimes we go to Syracuse and just take little trips and stuff, me and my friends. But yeah, just Canales. Yeah, that was good stuff.
Well, Damon, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, and congratulations on where you've gotten to this point in your acting career, and best wishes for the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be on the lookout. You might just don't blink, and then you might see me.
And that was actor, journalist, and fellow Oswego grad, Damon Gonzalez, joining us on the Throwing Bagels podcast. It's great to talk to Damon and get a little insight into what it's like to be in that business.
Yeah,
sure.
he definitely, it was good to hear about all this stuff that you don't really know about. And now we know central casting is a real thing. See?
It is a real building that says central casting
there
on
you
it,
go.
which is pretty
Who
cool,
knew?
huh? Yeah, right.
Who knew?
Can you imagine, by the way, having to fly to a totally different country that's, probably a 7-hour flight away,
All right.
just to bring clothing to a set and then fly back the next day? That's what a terrible turn and burn that is.
I mean, at least you didn't have to pay for it.
That's true. I would imagine not.
But like,
I mean,
not even be able
to
to
a private jet or something.
It had to be a private jet, right? I mean, it had to be.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I think
God,
so.
I love that. I need to. Let's get can we just do a private jet? Can you just like pool all of our money together? We'll just go.
I don't think we
somewhere
have.
and
I
come
don't think we could pool all of our money together
Oh,
for a
man.
private jet.
be lucky to get if we can get an Uber to like Syracuse.
I don't have that much money. Are you crazy?
It'd be cool though, wouldn't it? Oh,
It would be pretty cool. I would love to
private
fly in a
jet.
private jet one day, just for one time, just to see
Just
what it's
one
like.
time.
That's all.
Just to see how the other 1% live.
Yeah, because you don't go through like TSA or anything like that. You just you you come up to the hangar, you get out of your car, and you go into the plane and you take off.
Yeah, just make sure there's no other planes trying to land while you're trying
Yeah,
to
that's
taxi.
that's a good idea.
But Damon's story reminds me of a few other guests we've had on where they took that gamble, right? They took that leap of faith, and like Damon said, he cashed in his 401k.
That's crazy.
Pretty much
That is crazy. And he had to have back surgery. He said, he was in a back brace when he did that. Like that's
So
Wow.
he could have said, no, my back, I got to stay here. Nope, I'm gone. I am
Even
outta
less
here.
reason I ever would have done that for that
Yeah.
reason. Maybe I would have done it after if I was him, but not right at that
mean,
time. Like that's
So
it's some big cojones right there to do
Right.
something like that.
right.
And
Talk
it
about
worked.
taking a chance. I mean,
It
right.
did,
Yes. Talk about taking
I
a
mean,
chance. That's crazy. On himself,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. I mean, like, deep down, like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah, he seems like he's doing well for himself. Look, he gets those 6 commercial days where he gets paid 6 times. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I think I'm gonna go become an actor. Hell with
Good luck.
nursing. I'll just go do an acting.
Good luck.
How hard could it be?
Oh yeah, it's a piece of cake.
I could do it.
We all could do it. I couldn't do it. I know for a fact I couldn't do it.
I probably couldn't. do it.
I'd bomb in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I would look. I'm like staring at the camera, like, what do I got to say now?
You had enough trouble with the interview.
No, honestly.
Oh man. So looking forward to this weekend.
Yep.
I can't believe it. Oswego and Plattsburgh.
I feel it. I feel it.
Times two.
Two wins going straight to the NCAA tournament. Men and women. Let's go.
That'd be really cool.
That would be really
like
cool.
that'd be like a really big. Would that be bigger than? I mean, I don't think anything's bigger than winning a national championship, but wouldn't it be a bigger event? Like it's probably the biggest event they've had on campus sports wise, right?
I
like
mean,
I
in a
can't
long
think of
time. I
it's
mean,
right. I
other
can't think of
than-
anything bigger.
Other than like I guess, big time, NCAA tournament games, but other than that,
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, could you imagine? I mean, I'm not gonna count my chickens, but like, could you imagine both teams winning a national championship?
that
Like,
would be
how
wild.
awesome! How
Wow.
crazy would that be?
That would be wild.
All right, we're not gonna go. We're not gonna go crazy right now. But like, just think about something like that.
You would have
And-
to have a parade, right?
And the thing is, oh, definitely.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's happened before, like with one of those schools, like maybe Middlebury or something like that, or even Plattsburgh. I don't know, but like one of those, some school has definitely done it before. I will have to check. I'll get the intern on it.
Yeah, we'll get
But,
the research staff on it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, just imagine. I mean, there's multiple schools that have like their men's and women's teams that make the tournament. I mean, we've never had that happen before. So I think it would just be so cool if we could do that. And I don't know if the men will get in if they don't win the SUNYAC. So like the women are probably going to get in. I guess. I don't know how many people make it for the women's tournament, but I feel like they have a good shot to make it even if they lose to Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
So just to have this, I can't wait to see what the atmosphere is going to be like. And we wish, Coach Digby with the women's team all the best. Coach Gozick with the men's team. Let's go Lakers. And it's just completely weird how all of this has shaped up, because you go back to last year for hockey, and the men and the women, men's and women's Plattsburgh teams were hosting Cortland for both championships, and Cortland beat Plattsburgh in overtime in both the men's and the women's.
Oh wow!
Right.
And then this year, both Cortland teams lost to both Plattsburgh teams in the SUNYAC semifinals. And now both Plattsburgh teams are going to be in Oswego to take on the Lakers. But
it's pretty crazy to even see that, think that. But hey, look, I hope they do it. I hope they can both do it. That'd be pretty awesome.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Definitely. Go Lakers. And that'll do it for this edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. Jason, Chris, it's been a pleasure.
Kevin, Jason.
And you can
Bye-bye.
find us online. Bye-bye. I forgot to do the spiel. Sorry.
Oh,
He needs to do the thing first.
the
I gotta do the thing.
We didn't do the thing.
Throwingbagels.com. Email throwingbagelspodcast@gmail.com. Socials are on the website. That'll do it. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.